The morning mist still clung to the ridgeline when Cadet Mara Ellison opened her eyes. The first thing she noticed was silence, the specific kind of silence that isn't empty but full. Packed tight with held breath and careful attention. She blinked. Standing in a perfect perimeter around her medical cot, arranged in 4 precise rows, were 47 Veth warrior cubs. Each one stood at rigid attention. Their obsidian eyes, the kind that caught starlight even during the day, were fixed on a point somewhere above her head. Their claws were sheathed. Their tails, which usually whipped and curled with the restless energy of the young, hung perfectly still. Mara sat up slowly. Her left shoulder screamed at the movement, 3 cracked ribs, a deep laceration from a kinetic round that had gone through her armor plating like it was made of paper. She'd been told by the field medic to lie still for at least 2 rotations. She had been unconscious for 4. "What is happening?" she said. It was not quite a question. From the doorway of the field tent stepped Kale Vera, the Veth cub handler assigned to the 3rd Auxiliary Unit. He was tall for his species, nearly 2.5 meters, gray-furred, with the characteristic silver banding around his forearms that marked a handler of senior rank. He moved with the measured calm of someone who had witnessed many things that defied easy explanation, and had learned to simply document them. "They have been standing there for 6 hours, Kale said. "Since the moment you were brought in." Mara looked at the nearest cub. He could not have been more than 4 cycles old, barely past his first shed. He stared forward with an intensity that suggested the entirety of his concentration was dedicated to the act of standing correctly. "Did you tell them to do this?" she asked. "I told them to go sleep," Kale replied. He sounded faintly offended. 3 times. They refused. Cubs do not refuse handlers. It is not something that happens. A pause. It is apparently now something that happens. Mara looked at the cub again. "Hey," she said softly. The cub's ear rotated toward her, a slight, involuntary twitch, but his eyes did not move. "Hey," she tried again. "At ease. Or, I mean, you can relax. Whatever the Veth equivalent is." The cub turned his head. Just a fraction. Just enough to look at her directly. Mara had worked with Veth cubs for 8 months, long enough to know that direct eye contact from a cub was significant. The young ones didn't do it unless they were frightened, or unless something had changed in how they classified you. "Veraxol," the cub said. The word was low, formal, and completely incorrect in terms of proper pronunciation. He was barely 4 cycles old, but unmistakably the word. Kale went very still. Mara looked at him. "What does that mean?" The silence stretched for a long moment. Kale was staring at the cub with an expression she had never seen on a Veth face before. Something between disbelief and something older, something that might have been, in a different species, awe. "It is an old word," he said finally. "Veyrak means protector. Sol is a suffix that denotes, it indicates permanence. A bond that is recognized by the unit. Not assigned. Recognized." He paused. "It is the word used for the highest designation a Veth warrior can receive from their cohort. It cannot be given by command. It cannot be given by rank. It can only be given by." He looked at all 47 cubs, standing at perfect silent attention around a human woman with cracked ribs and a patched shoulder. "By those who witnessed something." Mara swallowed. "I just pulled them out of the building." "You pulled 11 cubs from a collapsing structure," Kale said, "while it was actively collapsing. With a kinetic round already in your shoulder. Without waiting for authorization or backup. Our field reports indicate you went back in 4 separate times. The last one was stuck under a beam." "Yes." He was scared. "Yes." Kale looked at her with those unreadable obsidian eyes. "Humans are a strange species, Cadet Ellison. I've heard that. You experience fear and proceed anyway. You calculate terrible odds and choose to ignore them. You form attachment bonds at a speed that is biologically improbable. And when those bonds are threatened, he stopped. Seemed to reconsider whatever he was going to say. The cubs have no framework for this. In Veth culture, what you did yesterday would require a decade of warrior bonding. A formal oath. Ritual acknowledgement. You did it because a young one was frightened, and you found that to be sufficient reason. He tilted his head. They have decided you are permanent. It is not something we teach them to do. It appears to be something they simply know. The cub nearest to Mara, the small one, the one who had spoken, broke formation slightly. Just slightly. He leaned, barely perceptibly, toward her. Mara held out her hand. The good one, the right one. The cub looked at it for a moment with that devastating 4-cycles-old seriousness that suggested he was weighing the formal etiquette of accepting comfort against the fact that he desperately wanted to. Then he stepped forward and pressed his forehead to her palm, and the sound he made was soft and low and did not have a human translation, but Cale later wrote in his field report, somewhat awkwardly, because field reports were not designed for this kind of entry, that it was the sound a cub made when it had decided that something was safe. One by one, the other 46 cubs broke formation. They did not scatter or become rowdy, as cubs usually did the moment formality relaxed. They simply moved closer. Settling. Several sat. A few made that same low sound. Cale stood at the doorway and watched a human cadet with cracked ribs become the permanent guardian of an entire generation of Veth warrior cubs, and wrote in his report that he had not anticipated this outcome but that he was, upon reflection, not surprised. He added a note at the bottom. Request that command review protocol for interspecies bonding designations. The word Veraxol was last formally used 340 years ago. It should not, technically, be possible for a non-Veth to receive it. It appears we may need to update the definition of technically. He filed the report. Then he pulled up a chair, sat down, and stayed, because even handlers, when they witnessed something true, did not leave.